I don't know how any Met fan could wake up today and not be embarrassed by what you saw last night with the Braves winning the World Series. And it might have been an inevitability, right? They took a big series lead. You're just kind of waiting for it to happen. Last night was sort of like the long coronation because they totally smoked the Houston Astros. So you had time to let it sit in and set in. But it doesn't make it any easier to stomach that for the second time in 3 years, you have one of your division rivals winning the World Series. But this one, to me, is far more embarrassing for the Mets than anything the Washington Nationals did. And a lot of it has to do with where the Mets are right now as a franchise. I mean, you can't get two teams that are going in more opposite directions than what the Mets are dealing with right now and what the Braves are dealing. Braves hoisting trophies, popping champagne. Mets still don't have a general manager, still don't have a president of baseball operations. The Sandy Alderson saying the core is eroding for the Mets. Meanwhile, this core for the Atlanta Braves, Moose, they might have been early to their World Series.
Like,
that's
changed
how
the core.
That's how scary this team is to me moving forward. You're talking about the young guys who are on this team. You're talking about the Albies and the Dansby Swansons and the Rileys and the Acuna didn't even partake in any of this. Of course, talk about the pitching side, Soroka and Freed and Anderson. I mean, you got these young guys. They're still coming into their own. They're like ascending. And the Mets have no idea what they have. They have no idea what they want their leadership to be. And they look like a rudderless ship. If you don't wake up as a Mets fan...
The Mets have an idea. They just can't hire anybody.
Yes. Well, that's a problem. You know, the philosophical part is a problem. The actual logistics are the problem.
Executing the plan is the problem.
And if you know what the plan is, can you let me in on what the plan is? Because I have no clue what the Mets plan is. Somebody with a heartbeat who apparently might want to take Steve Cohen's money. Maybe.
That's it.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough person to find.
Somebody with a heartbeat and a Ivy League degree that's worked in baseball at some point in time.
Well, it only works really if they are student of the year back in 2005. You know, it's just ridiculous that that you could sit here as the Mets and you're watching the Braves and not thinking, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are you doing? Everyone's been asking this for weeks now, months maybe, and there's not an answer in sight. Now you're interviewing people that are so far out on the fringes that they're turning down the job because they don't feel like they're ready for it. Like, that's where you're going to here. You're not even at like one layer. You're at the next layer and then beyond that. We are like in the outer space of front office executives where people are like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think I'd be up for the Mets GM job. I didn't even think you had my number or my name. And do I even want to interview with you? Like, meanwhile, here are the Braves just spraying champagne all over each other and having a great old time.
What bothered you more? The fact that Jock Peterson made wearing pearls a thing, that Jorge Soler is the World Series MVP, that Alex Anthopoulos learned from his mistakes as Blue Jays GM and reinforced this team, and Duvall and Soler and Eddie Rosario and Jock Peterson, the fact that Freddie Freeman is now a world champion, the fact that the Atlanta Braves, like, what bothered you as a Met fan watching that game last night more? The Soler 3-run bomb early over the train tracks in Houston, the no-doubter pounding his chest, all heart. The fact that the Atlanta Braves won a World Series without Acuna.
Matt Moose, the answer to that is just yes. Yes, it all bothered me. It all bothered me. It all bothers me this morning. But, you know, it wasn't even the particulars of the game.
Maybe the Mets could get Walt Weiss to be their manager.
Right. Believe me, does he want to interview?
He did a tremendous job on the bench.
Does he even have a cell phone? I mean, the fact, too, is that they clowned the Mets on their way here. You know, just getting to the World Series was enough to really chat me about the Braves. But they even clowned the Mets on the way here. Ron Washington said that they believed that the Mets were not a threat. When the Mets were in first place, the Braves, after losing their best player and their best pitcher having a setback, looked at the Mets and kind of sized them up and was just like, yep, we can chase them down. We can chase them down because the Mets were fraudulent in their in holding on to first place. Meanwhile, I was screaming from the rooftops, why are people looking at the standings in freaking June? It never made any sense. The Mets never had a stranglehold over the NL East. Do not let that storyline ever become a reality because it was never true. The Mets never had a hold on first place in the division, ever. That was a house of cards waiting to happen. And it did.
Well, they collapsed. They had an opportunity to lengthen out that lead and put doubt in the Atlanta Braves, and they just never did it. I mean, they did lead the division for months.
By 2, 3 games, 3.5, 5 at the most.
Yeah, it's a lead nonetheless.
But it wasn't this crazy secretariat here to put it in terms you love. It wasn't a 10 or 12 game lead, but that's where you gave on. That's where you give that's where you knock the Mets, Maggie, and you rightfully so. Is that they did not lengthen out that lead. They gave the Braves and everybody else behind them. Philadelphia Phillies, the Nats, until they started to tear it down. They gave those teams, belief that it's not going to take all that much for us to be able to come back and win the division. And the Braves did that. And then the Braves had one of the great runs. I mean, it's not just the fact that the Braves won it and it's, salt in the wound of Met fans, but, I mean, it's an unbelievable run. Look at the run that the Atlanta Braves had, taking out the Los Angeles Dodgers, beating the Houston Astros, once again preventing Dusty Baker from getting that World Series trophy. I mean, all of those things, sending Carlos Correa, ending his career as a Houston Astro, into free agency, and he maybe ends up here in New York with the Yankees. All of that happened, and they did it. They had the magic going for them. And for the Mets, see you next year.
Kick the tin can down the street.
See you next year. And by the way, no clue what next year is going to look like, because this is something I will totally wear. I thought the Mets were close. I really did. I thought the Mets were close going into the season, especially after the Lindor trade and Carrasco. Little did you know, Carrasco was barely going to pitch this year because of injury. Lindor was awful for most of the year, but I thought they were close. I thought this was the next step. I thought the Taijuan Walker signing was great. That's something the Wilpons wouldn't have done. I thought that, they just had options at different spots. Jeff McNeil's going to play second now. Moose is going to go back to his natural position. Had all these good vibes. Maybe the Mets didn't address every single need that they had. They kind of left center field out there, but I'm like, Brandon Nimmo, he's athletic. He's got a...
Oh, don't knock Nimmo. Met fans will...
He's got a great role on this team. Conforto coming off a great 2020. You got Dom in left, but don't worry because the DH is coming to the National League, and this will be the last year that Dom's going to have to play left field, and everything's going to get worked out. Everything's going to settle in just so nicely here. Mets got a better catcher. Maybe Edwin Diaz, a pie in the sky. Maybe he'll be better. All of this stuff, right? Edwin Diaz, the metrics in 2020, Moose. You wouldn't believe it. The metrics are off the charts. It's the numbers inside the numbers that were so good for Diaz. All right, maybe I'll get on and believe that.
Department
well, thank you. And look at all this, starting pitching that they're going to have. Even if Syndergaard's not available, you got guys on top of guys on top of guys on top of guys and guys in depth. And it was for nothing. They are further than I ever thought they were going to be. I thought this team was close. They're not close. The Braves got better at the trade deadline. They won 88 games. This was not some juggernaut of a team that ran away with it. But I'll tell you what, they've got an identity. They've got a core. They've got an idea of where they're going. Who has any idea where the Mets are going? Exactly.
Yeah.
Silence.
There is no
silence.
Right now, how could you possibly say that? They've got no leadership. Picoto was right. You took the under in the regular season for the Atlanta Braves. They did nail that one. But they were wrong because the Atlanta Braves end up winning the World Series at the end as Anthopoulos reimagines his team and dealing with the injuries and being super, super aggressive. And I mentioned it, Anthopoulos, give him a ton of credit.
Mm-hmm. He deserves it.
Because, he learned from mistakes that he made up in Toronto, not strengthening team, those Jose Bautista teams. And said at one point in time, one of those years, he really lost the clubhouse because he did not do everything he could as a general manager to go all in that year. And he said, I learned my lesson from that point forward. If we've got an opportunity, I'm going to do everything I can as a general manager to add. And that's what he did. And look at how they all paid off. Look at how Rosario's Soler, brilliant. Jacques Peterson, Jacques Tober, everything that you saw from this team, it is unbelievable, that run that the Braves went on, and unexpected. And that's what makes it even sweeter if you're a Braves fan, because you're going into it, everyone's talking about the Giants and the Dodgers, and they go on this kind of a run. And if you're a Met fan, as you are, Maggie, you're bothered. Oh. And you should be.
Well, here's the other part.
I'm happy the Red Sox didn't win.
You get a pass. Well, although the Yankees don't get off the schneid on this one so easily. We got stuff to talk about with them as well about last night and how that impacts the Yankees. But you're talking about what the Braves did at the trade deadline. It's not like the Mets sat on their hands at the deadline. They did go out and got Javi Baez. They did go out and got an all-star and someone who just a few years ago was like second in MVP voting. I mean, they did go out and get someone. They just addressed the wrong thing. Because the Mets decided that day, beyond Rich Hill, who had been added a couple days before the deadline, they decided they did not need to reinforce their starting pitching with a top-line starter. And not 2 hours after the trade deadline passed did we find out that Jacob deGrom had a much more serious injury than anyone had thought.
Yeah.
That is the part that bothers me also. And we have more updates on Jacob deGrom and his elbow from last season, which is enough to make me just want to pull my hair out.
Which is amazing. I mean, it's an amazing story. We'll get into that a little bit. Washington Heights, Hector, you're first up. What's going on, Hector?
How you doing, guys? I got a Jacob deGrom update for you. He will be having Tommy John. I don't know why everybody doesn't want to believe it. They're not announcing it yet, but that will happen.
Okay.
And I totally expect him to come back in spring training, throw for a week, and then they'll make the announcement.
Hector, don't say it. I thought I was on the ledge today. You're usually the one talking me off the ledge.
All
Come
right, so you're
on.
predicting Tommy John for Jacob deGrom.
For a while, Maggie.
Oh, Hector.
Listen, is there any reason not to believe that's not going to happen?
Anything's on the table. He's already had Tommy John surgery, so hopefully that is not the case.
That doesn't mean that he can't have it again. There's been plenty of guys that have it
but
again.
this is pure. I mean, it's just basically spinning something negative about deGrom.
No problem. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see. Leave it at that. We'll wait and see. I really believe that in my heart. Now, let's get to last night. Listen, this whole time, playoffs, I was indifferent to the Braves being in there. It's like, whatever. Then finally seeing them win last night, heck yeah, man, it pissed me off.
Yep.
It made me so mad. And it's just because it was there, like you, Maggie, like, yeah, we knew the team was flawed. And I know you didn't like it. I fought you off the ledge, you're right, in the whole June when we were in first place. And it wasn't a matter for me of, okay, we got first place, and there's a stranglehold on this. No, it was, we're in here. Now we're hoping that we're going to make some moves to be able to stay there.
Right.
And what happened was we didn't make those moves. That's what really upsets me about it, is that even when deGrom was hurt, you even heard it from some fans, oh, well, deGrom was hurt. You can't really expect much from them. No, the Braves didn't do that.
Yep.
They lost their top pitcher. They lost their best player, probably one of the best players in the league. They didn't say, okay, well, we lost Acuna, we lost Soroka. Let's just, this year's a pass. Nobody's going to really care. No, they still kept going after it.
Yep.
And the Mets don't do that. And it seems to be that understanding. They always seem to settle. And, people will blame the ownership and with the Wilpons, and with only so much that he could do. Nah, that's nonsense. To me, that's just Sandy, man. He just likes try to do a lot.
You can't even blame ownership anymore. I mean, you can't. And Hector, I'm with you at every step of the way here.
I was told that all our problems were going to be solved. Even you guys told me when I said, "Oh, you guys really think that this guy's going to come in here and just spend money willy-nilly?" Oh yeah, don't worry, he got money. Who's not going to want to go work for Cohen with all that money? And what do we see now? Nobody. Wants to work.
Turns out nobody. Man, Hector and I are sharing a brain today. Nobody wants to work for the Mets right now.
Not right now. We'll see where the
or maybe
chips.
Some people did, but they didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah, they didn't have the opportunity. I think Stearns
interview.
would have taken the job from Milwaukee. I think he would have if he was able to get out of the Milwaukee contract.
Well,
but he was not able to get him.
Moose.
Yeah, candies and nuts. Every day would be Christmas.
I learned that one from you.
Right around the corner, Christmas. New Haven, Connecticut. It is Paul. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, Moose, Maggie, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
Yeah, Moose, you were talking about someone who knew baseball, Ivy League graduate, knows the Mets organization. Why don't they just hire Ron Darling?
Yeah, why not?
Does Ron want the job? Ron's got an excellent job.
I'm sure he would take the job.
He's loved, of course, because of what he did with the Mets here. He's an excellent broadcaster. He's so good that he's not just doing SNY, but he's doing TBS also. He does MLB Network. I mean, it would take an hour to go through Ron Darling's whole resume.
Then you streamline it. You simplify. You got one thing. You just run the Mets.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Why would Ron want that headache? I don't think that, listen, would Ron Darling run the Mets? Does he want to run the Mets? Do we have any idea?
Oh, no, I think he's just joking around.
I know, but like Moose, this is where we're at. We need options here.
Yeah, and
is Ron Darling any better than the assistant general manager for the Baltimore Orioles, a team that is synonymous now recently with losing?
Well, you should love that guy. He's a big stats guy. You love the analytics.
I do love analytics.
Brooklyn, Mark, what's going on, Mark?
How you guys doing? I'm a longtime fan. So Jacob deGrom will go down as being probably one of the greatest Mets if he continues the career he's having.
Yes.
Let's not forget, at one point, he also had the best bat on the Mets during the last season before his injuries.
Yeah.
Ohtani overshadowed him completely. We're talking about the psyche of the Mets is destroyed. What is it about Jacob deGrom that he can keep coming out and saying, I want to do better, as opposed to Lindor and Baez, who goes, you guys don't like us, why do we care? There's a psyche going on in the Mets, whether it's the management or the players themselves that are allowed to run wild, and then we're wondering what's going wrong. There's no accountability on the Mets, and it's something that drives the fans crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, there's some stuff in that locker room in that clubhouse that needs to be cleaned up.
Well, clearly.
I mean, and Rojas didn't gain any control, and there were players with personalities that were issues.
Well, listen, you can't take on the fans, and that was a mistake from the moment it happened. We roasted the Mets over it, and Baez and Lindor. It was just such an egregious mistake. But that's all it was, I think, was really a mistake, and one that I hope Lindor, for sure, because he's going to be here for the next decade, learned the lesson. It got off to a really rocky start, but I'm not willing to give up on Francisco Lindor. Hell, I mean, I can't.
Well, you can. He's here for 10 years.
Tied, locked in. We're arm
Even if
in
you
arm.
wanted to,
It ain't happening. So, kind of like, like a Costanza, you're not in the mood, you better get in the mood.
You got to sell it. I still believe. Because
I'm
you've got no
selling
other,
this like a used car.
You've got no other choice. You better believe because he's not going anywhere.
It's got 150,000 miles on it, man. That thing can still run.
St. James, Billy. What's up, Bill?
Hey, guys. Perhaps the new Mets general manager can be a part of Carton and Roberts' pumpkin patch and flame-throwing competition and then get pulled over for having a blood alcohol level of 0.18. I mean,
Wait,
really?
About
enough
that.
of it.
Is that a promo for
Are
FSU?
we talking about the event this Sunday out at Reds?
Let's get a competent general manager and a competent president who can make some moves, who can compete.
Yes, Bill. Yes, of course. They're trying. But nobody wants to take the job. Or they targeted
Maggie,
people who are not
listen.
available.
Maggie.
Yes.
Maggie, listen. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, you do a great job, and I appreciate and I respect you. But enough is enough. These fans are done with what's happening with the upper management.
I know. I'm one of them.
and more importantly,
Bill,
guidance.
I'm as frustrated as anybody. I don't know what are we on the same page? I don't know. That call was wonky from the moment we took it. I'm there. I'm there, and I am like beyond. And the Braves put me beyond, right? You guys know, I've said this many times.
Got to feel good for Freeman.
I don't rent on the ledge. I own as part of a Mets fan. I'm just waiting. And my worst fears came true this year. Not just that the team wasn't competitive enough to make the postseason, the fact that the core is eroding. Like, that is the part to me worse than any loss.
Yeah.
Worse than any disappointing season.
The Braves are so likable, though. They're such a likable group. Soler. They're such a likable group. Freeman's as likable as the day is long.
Why?
Very nice.
He's
Always
just like
smiling.
Chipper Jones, just smiling.
Chipper named his daughter Shay.
Freddie Freeman has been a Met killer.
Chipper enjoyed coming to New York.
All of a sudden, we're cool with Freddie Freeman?
Yeah, Freddie. Is he not likable?
The guy's hitting over 300 against the Mets in his career.
You had to feel good. How about Travis d'Arnaud, world champion?
Thank you, Moose. Appreciate
Travis
that was
d'Arnaud,
like putting a knife in the back.
World champion. Jorge Soler, champion.
Man, it all
Duvall,
happened, didn't it?
Champion.
Keep going.
Yeah, you can run through the whole litany.
Just go through the whole roster.
How about the performance by Fried last night? Gets his ankle stepped on. I mean, that is something of legend. And still goes out there. The Met fan is still embracing 2015 and Noah Syndergaard 60 feet 6 inches away. And the Braves are going out there winning World Series.
We'll give you an update.
Syndergaard still being active on social media, and the Braves are, you know what? Yeah, you could take that. And you know what? Stick that where the sun don't shine. We're going to win a World Series.
Death taxes, Noah Syndergaard shirtless on Twitter.
Anthopoulos takes over a franchise that the previous general manager got fired because he was playing around with the international money.
Yeah.
They took
Fired
away
in
international
disgrace.
all of these things. Anthopoulos goes out there, loses his best player in the year in Acuna to a torn ACL down there in Miami, And they still win a World Series.
He replaced him with 3 guys.
And the Mets are searching here trying to find somebody to take the job. And worried about whether or not Michael Conforto will be the answer in right field.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do with Dom Smith?
Hey,
And by the way, if you're a Met fan, don't knock Brandon Nimmo because all of a sudden Brandon Nimmo's Willie Mays.
On this team, he might as well be. And you want to know the thing about the Jock Peterson and
Darno,
the
world
Pearls?
champion. And you've got James McCann.
The Pearls, Moose.
At
least it worked.
Yeah,
It
why
worked.
not?
Their little thing worked.
Athletes can
What
do
did
whatever.
our thing do?
Donnie
Diesel, the
Yeah.
horse.
Athletes can do whatever they want. But you had to feel, I mean, if you don't like Freeman, I mean, Darno got out of this Mets mess. So he seeked
Like
freedom.
the last ship on the dinghy on the Titanic.
Darno just got rewarded during the year with a 2-year contract extension. He is the solution at catcher. Like what the Mets envisioned Darno to be, now he's blossoming as a Brave. Still can't throw anybody out, but still offensively, and calls a nice game.
Well, when he's healthy.
Everybody, when he was here, was saying he basically couldn't catch anybody. Travis d'Arnaud last night was behind the plate as Max Fried threw 6 shutout innings in a deciding Game 6 of the World Series. That Travis d'Arnaud. Not Sam Darno, Travis d'Arnaud.
How about Fried throws 6 innings and you think that he's like, the next Randy Johnson? It's like 6 whole innings.
Freeman's so
Because
likable.
in this day and age, that's like basically as good as a complete game for a starting pitcher.
Freeman's given a lot of time. You just had to feel good for him a little bit.
No,
Just a little.
I don't.
Just a little bit.
I didn't have to. I don't have to, and nobody is going to make me.
Got a beautiful young family.
No one's going to make me feel good for Freddie Freeman.
He's such an ambassador for the sport.
When you think about, me feel good for this guy.
When you think about a great baseball player, a guy that's great for the game, like one of the guys you think about is Freddie Freeman. I know. He's just he's so likable, like such a good guy.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome.
He's a world champion.
I hope the Yankees give him $300 million.
Did the Mets send out a tweet today congratulating Travis d'Arnaud, or did they do that already? Congratulations
and also
to
they should
former
update
Met, now world champion Travis d'Arnaud.
And 3 more people also said no to an interview with the Mets. They should send that out in the same tweet, sort of hide it.
Billy Epler's now in the mix.
Oh, great. Because with all the money in the world, he really built a juggernaut out there. Great. I forgot about all the World Series the Angels were winning. Was I asleep during that? I think I fell asleep.
It wasn't the Red Sox. I'll tell you that. That put a smile on my face. It wasn't the Red Sox and it wasn't the Stros. As the Braves were celebrating last night, you know what? I had a little Stu Leonard's popcorn. I enjoyed it.
Doesn't mean the Yankees are off the hook. We're going to get to
Freddie.
that.
Soler the MVP. Snitker and Genius in the dugout. Max Fried.
If you didn't think that things were already bad for the Mets, we've got even more for you because it never ends in Mets land. What Jacob deGrom had to say about his elbow to Anthony DiComo. We'll bring that to you next.